Thank you for joining us today for our Cablecast technical training on auto scheduling meetings. My name is Michelle and I'm the marketing manager for our Cablecast team. And we thank you for joining us in this latest edition of what is actually a series of webinars that dives deep into specific use cases using some of the time-saving features that we have in the Cablecast automation software. So in Cablecast version 6.6, we added a lot of auto scheduling features, and today we're going to show you a specific application of those for something that we imagine many of you do, which is scheduling recurring meetings. So city council meetings, school board meetings, basically anything that happens, on a regular monthly or weekly basis where you're doing a lot of the same actions over and over. We want to show you the best way to try to eliminate some of those repetitive actions. So we'll have Ryan from our training team showing you that. John saying hello from Tennessee. Hi, John. Hello from, I'm here in New York, and I think Grayson and Ryan are both currently in Minnesota right now. Are you guys both at home base?
Yep.
We are, yes.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and let Ryan hop into our presentation.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Today, we're going to be talking about our auto scheduling of meetings. So this is kind of the thing. The auto schedule functionality does a lot of different really cool stuff. But what we kind of wanted to do in this scenario is kind of show you a good working scenario of how it works. And that would be a good example of using those reoccurring meetings, city council meetings, school board meetings, that sort of stuff in there. So that's kind of the workflow that we're going to be showing you. There are some other things that you can really do with the auto scheduling functionality in Cablecast 6.6, but we're going to be primarily focusing on that meeting, and you'll see some of the other functionality within there, and we'll kind of touch on that a little bit. So let's talk about our automated workflow. So again, just to recap, we're going to be kind of walking through this as a way to be able to do this for your meetings, those reoccurring meetings, the stuff that's going to go live, and being able to say that they are always the second Tuesday of every month, being able to automate that process with these tools. So there's going to be kind of 3 steps that we're going to be showing you here. The first is we're going to need to create a template show record. So this template show record is going to be available for us to be able to use when we create these rules in the auto scheduling to generate those show records from. So it's going to keep all that information, make copies of it, and be able to schedule those individual show records at those different times later on in the month. So we'll be creating our template show record first. Then we're going to be scheduling our live meeting. So with this, we're going to set up the rule telling it when, what time, what channel we want to schedule it on, and then we can also set it up to also automatically record, so we don't have to do that separately. And then the third thing that we're going to show you is once we have all those meetings recorded and they're live, how do we get them to schedule the replays? So there are some really cool things and functionality within the rules that we can set this up so it plays the most recent show record from a project or a saved search in general that we want to create. So let's go and actually see this in action. So we're going to go back to my web browser here. And we are in Cablecast 6.6. So if you guys haven't been on this yet, some of the functionality that you're going to be seeing with the auto scheduling, if you're on 6.5 or later, you're not going to have the auto scheduling functionality. You need to talk to your support staff, make sure that you have your software assurance contract in place so that you can update to the Cablecast 6.6 to get all the stuff that we're going to be showing you today. So the auto scheduling is all under our tools right here on the left-hand side. So we're going to click on that wrench icon, and our very first option is going to be our auto schedule. So the auto schedule is where we're going to set up our different rules. So we can set up our rules, what channel they're going to affect for, and we also have our new. But before we even create that new auto schedule rule, we need to create that show record, that template show record that we're going to be using for this. So we're going to go to our shows menu, the very first one there, and we're going to create a new show record. So it's going to give us our completely blank show record that we're going to be creating from. So in this case, we're going to just call this one City Council, and let's say we want to make this City Council meeting, and we'll call it template in there. So our CG title is whatever we're going to have it. We're going to call this one City Council meeting or something like that. local ID, we can use that, whatever. And then we're also going to assign it to a channel. The channel is going to be very helpful for you, or not the channel, I should say, the project is going to be very helpful for you, especially when we get to the scheduling those shows later on, setting up that rule. Because what we can do is we can create a saved search that is generated with those responses, and then that's the saved search that we're going to be using. So we might create a different project, or we can search the projects that we want. And let's say here we have our city council meetings right there as our project. So we're going to look for everything, add it to that same project so it knows and it will generate those for us. We can set an allowed air date in there. With your template, you're not going to want to set that because that could throw off when this program can be aired. That is a new feature that was added in 6.6 where we can set up an allowed date range of a show record. So if you had kill dates and things like that, you can set that in there. In this case, where we're creating our template, we're not going to use that. Our reel, we're going to need to set all of our information about this. So we're going to want to make sure that we set our format. So we're going to use our live format, saying that we're coming from our council chambers or whatever it may be. And we're going to set our length. And remember, like with a lot of our live meetings, you want to err on the side of caution. You want to add some extra pad room. So if your meeting is on average like 2 hours in length, you don't want it to end early. So you want to be able to schedule it with some extra pad room at the end. So I'm just going to set it for 3 hours at the end. So that way I can make sure that I get it in its entirety. We can set our event date, we can set our category, different things like that. We can set our producer as well. So we'll set it for myself. We can add our comments, we can add our description, so on and so forth in there. We can also make these show records already VOD enabled. So when it creates the new one, it can already have them waiting in queue, waiting for that recording to happen as well. So you don't have to go back to them later on if you wanted to. So that's a really cool feature as well. So we hit save. It's going to tell us that show record number 68 has been saved. That's going to be our template show record that we're going to be using with this. So we're going to go back to our tools and we're going to set up that rule for that live meeting. So we're going to click on our new, and it's going to give us our new rule that we can create in here. So we can assign a name. It's going to just generically fill it with city council meeting, but you can do whatever you want in there as your title. I'm just going to put in that city council meeting as well in there. We need to choose which channel we want this on. So if you guys have multiple channels, or if you're a full PEG facility where you have public, educational, and government, you want to make sure that you're choosing the correct channel that you want this to assign to. Otherwise, you're going to be putting a bunch of random stuff on a channel for the next couple of months, and it's going to show up and you're going to cause yourself a lot of headaches. So make sure that you put it on the right channel ahead of time. So in my case, I've only got the one channel. We're going to put it on channel 15. Now, we want to know, when does this actually happen, and set our time. Let's say my meetings are at 7 p.m. So I'm going to set my time there. But let's say that it's the first Tuesday of every month, or the second Tuesday of every month. Let's do that. Second Tuesday of every month, it goes in here. Well, for our recurrence, we can set it as a weekly basis, or we can say as a monthly, and I can say that it's only going to be on Tuesdays. So I can uncheck my other days of the week, and I'm going to say that it's only going to be the second Tuesday of the month, and I can just leave that there. Let's say your meetings are the second and the fourth, or the second and the last Tuesday of every month. You can set it up so that it makes those meetings and makes that recurrence in there. So this is a nice new feature to be able to have it down by a weekly or a monthly basis, rather than having it by that day of the week in there. So it really gives you guys a lot of flexibility in fine tuning that. So now that we've set that first live meeting, so it's 7 p.m. on the second Tuesday of every month in there. Now down in our content, what do we want to put into that time? So there's going to be 3 options that we can put in here with our fill with. The first is going to be a top search result. That we're going to come back to, because that's what we're going to be using for our scheduling this after we're done recording. So we'll talk about that. One of the other options is a single show. So if you just wanted to schedule a single show record a whole bunch of times, the same thing over and over and over again, you can set that single show record. But in our case, because this is going to be a new city council meeting, a new live event, every single month, I'm going to create a new show record. We're going to copy from an existing show record and generate that. So we've chosen that option, and it's going to ask us to find that template search or that template show that we just created that we're going to be using. So I could even search in here, City Council. It's going to go in there, and I can say, oh, right there, show record number 68 is my City Council meeting template. I'm going to click on that. So that is the show record that it's going to use as the template to create every second Tuesday of every month. It's going to use that to create a new one and be able to follow and copy that over and over again. Now, if I want this to also record at the same time, I have my record run right here. Check on that box. I'm then going to choose the device that I want to use. In my case, I'm only recording to the server, so I'm going to use my Flex Record. Queue, you don't need to worry about, because queue is just if you had that pre-roll or that post-roll that you need to do with like tapes and DVDs. Digital, you don't need to set up any of that. It's going to start recording exactly when you tell it to in there. So now once we have that all set up, we can just recap and make sure that everything's set right. So my rule is going to be called City Council meeting. I'm scheduling on channel 15. It's at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays of the second Tuesday of every month. I'm going to create a new show by using show record number 68 as my template. And I'm also going to record it. And it's also going to record on the Flex Record, so right directly to my server. Now, once I hit save on this, you're going to see that it's already in here saying that City Council meeting, our rule is in there, and now it's ready to go. Now, it does take about 5 minutes for this to process. So it's got to create all those show records for you, and it's got to put all that stuff into the schedule for you. What it does is it creates at least 3 months in advance worth of programming for you. So in this case, I've got the second Tuesday of every month. It's going to create the next 3 months for me, create the show records ahead of time, and then it's also going to put those into the schedule 3 months in advance. So when you do create your show records like this or your rules, now with this, we're only putting that stuff in there. You're still going to need to send autopilot whenever you're finished to make sure that it's activated and that it actually takes place in there, but it's saving yourself all that time. You can look at the information in here by clicking on details, and you're going to see that it's already created some of that stuff in there for us. So it's telling me all the details up here at the top, saying that I'm scheduling on channel 15. It's at Tuesday at 7 p.m. We're creating a new show, and then it's going to show all the ones that we have. So here's September 10th is going to be that first one. It created a new meeting, and being it uses that template, that's creating the show record, and it's adding in that name in there for us with the date and the time. So it recreates that show record so that it's not just the same one over and over again. We have some ways to be able to look at those. So now I can go into my schedule, and we'll jump to September 10th. So we'll click on our calendar icon, September 10th, scroll down to 7 p.m. And you're going to see that that program is now in here. And it's got this little icon right here on the left-hand side. This is a little robot icon, like kind of a little robot head, indicating that this was an auto-scheduled program in there. So it let it in there. It added it in. It's already got the red dot in there. And even if we looked at our record schedule, you're going to see that that record event is also automatically added in there. You're also going to see that we do need to send autopilot because we have added something new to our schedule. So this does not automatically send autopilot for you. You still need to do that. But there, I have it in for that first month. I jump to October, the 8th. There it is on the 8th. And let's see if it is on the next one yet. I don't know if it got to the 12th yet. No, it hasn't gotten to the 12th just yet because we haven't gotten that far out yet in the future. But it also created our show records for us. So if we go to our show search, you're going to see that it also created those 2 show records already for us. So we can go in and modify those as well. Now, some of the other things that are really cool with this is, let's go back to our schedule. And let's go back to that September meeting on the 10th. Let's say that there's something going on and this isn't actually going to happen until 7:30. Well, I can modify individual ones that are in the schedule already for us. So if I wanted to, let's say this starts at 7:30 instead, because we had a closed session or a working session or something like that, I can make my adjustment. And now it's only going to affect this single one on the 10th. It's not going to affect any of the other ones in there. So you can modify and manipulate individual ones. Or let's say that second Tuesday falls on a holiday. Let's say it's on Christmas or 4th of July or something like that. You can also individually delete those ones, and it's not going to affect all the other ones in the rule. So it's really nice and helpful in those scenarios. So that's getting that live event. It's going to record. We have it there. Now let's talk about scheduling this for replay. So what we're going to need to do is you're going to first want to create a saved search for these results. So what we can do is we can look, and I believe I already have a saved search already created. So we can go to our shows. We can go to our saved searches here. And I do not have a saved search. All right, so we'll show you that saved search process. So if we go to our show search, we need to create a saved search. So over here on the right-hand side, we have the different filters that we can search by to be able to find exactly what it is that we're looking for. So we're going to remove our title one, and we're going to add a different filter. So we're going to go add, and we're going to search by project because that's what we're going to signify that as. So I want to find everything by a specific project that belongs there. So there's my city council meetings project. I am firing that, search, find my results, and there it's going to list all those show records in there for us. So it's going to list the ones there for the 9th or for the September. There's the October one. There's also our template one as well. Well, I want to save this. So all I need to do is click on my save, add a title for this. So we're going to call this council meetings in there. And now we have a saved search for our council meetings. You can also look at your different saved searches by going to our shows menu, pulling up your saved searches, and there's our council meetings saved search in there. Now, when we create this rule, we're going to go in here and we're going to create a new one. And let's say that the first one was our live. Let's say our council meeting replays is what we're going to name this one, just so we can set it apart and different from the other ones. Council meeting replay. We're going to schedule it on that channel 15. And now let's say that our meeting plays back at let's say 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Well, here we can set our times that we want to schedule it at. So let's go 10 a.m. We want to add a second date or a second time here. So we're going to go and put it there. And I'm going to say 5 p.m. And it's going to be on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays in there, and we can do that. Now, let's say that it also has other replays. Let's say on Tuesdays, it plays at 1 p.m., or Tuesdays and Thursdays, it plays at 1 p.m. Well, I can add a secondary time slot, and I can say, okay, I want this to play at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So you can be really specific on the multiple days, multiple times in there if you really wanted to on that. I'm just going to leave it though with just our Monday through Wednesday and Friday one. So I'm just going to delete that second one in there. Now that we've set our replays for 10 a.m., 5 p.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, because this is going to be a weekly, we want it to recur, we need to fill with something. So what are we going to fill it with? We're going to use that top search results option now. So now we have that, and we can choose what saved search we want to use to fill that in there. So there's that council meeting search that we have. I populate that, and now what's going to happen is it's going to look at the most recent or the most recent result from that saved search. If there's a file, if there's a digital file ready to play, it's going to look at that, and it's going to schedule that program into our schedule for us. Create a new show record. It has a digital file for replay, and it's ready to go. Then it'll replace those things into the schedule, and it's going to put all these in there 3 months in advance and populate it in there. We don't have to reset this or anything, because as we're adding stuff in there, if we keep it into that same, add it to that project that we're using the save search results from, it's going to populate that and replace those programs automatically for us. So again, all you need to do is just send autopilot. So We get those in here. We hit save. It's going to process that. We have our meeting replays. If we look at our details, it's going to take a while for it to process, but here it's going to tell us 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. On channel 15, we're doing a top search result. So it's going to populate all that stuff in. Now, one thing that is going to happen is, let's say you have this set up and let's say something changed and you want to stop doing this. Well, if I wanted to delete my show record or my search result or my rule that I've created for my replays, if I click on my details and click on my delete down here at the bottom, it will delete that rule, and it will delete any of the auto-scheduled programs that are in the schedule already. So if it's in the schedule from auto-scheduling and it hasn't happened yet, it will remove those in there. So you don't have to worry about having a bunch of stuff in there and throwing off statistics or something like that. So if you delete, it will show that in there for you. So that is how to be able to schedule that live meeting and be able to set it up for replay. So this is going to save yourself a lot of time, a lot of effort. Like I said, all you have to do is be able to send autopilot whenever you're finished, and then it will continually populate that stuff for you.
We are at the end of our time today. Ryan, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Just one thing that I always mention whenever I do a training with my customers or an install support is that customer support and technical support for our customers is free of charge for the life of the product. And that means any questions that you have, whether it be user interface or an actual technical issue, you're getting error messages, something's not playing, do not hesitate to reach out to technical support. Also, check out those videos that we showed you for the new user training. They're a great resource, and a lot of the stuff, it's from square one. So if you have new customers or new coworkers that are going to be working on the system, or you just need a refresher, with all the chapter markers in there, it's a really nice way to jump back and forth to different subjects. So definitely use those as resources at your fingertips.
Right. So thank you, Ryan, for that presentation, and thank you to all of our attendees today. And we look forward to having you back for our next Cablecast technical training.